I believe that Path of Exile 2 has potential to be this generation's best ARPG. In comparison to Diablo 2 when I started years ago, I'm nearing about 200 hours Path of Exile 2, and definitely streamers that have a better opinion than me that you should check out, like Creparian, and if you haven't already. And in this video, I will be talking about what I enjoyed and that they should double down on, what I hated and what they should improve on, and finally, what I hope for the future will be for Path of Exile 2. There are a couple of things that entertained me and kept me going up until the end of the game. My favorite part is definitely normal acts 1, 2, 3, specifically the normals, not cruel, because once you get to cruel, you have more tools and better gear to almost trivialize most bosses. The reason Act 1, 2, 3 normal was so good is because we had to focus more on the boss mechanics, which most bosses were definitely end of act story bosses had. Personally, Act 1 story boss was my favorite from the music, the story leading up to it, the epic attacks that it had, and just the whole cinematic of everything. Act 1 boss made me optimistic about the rest of the game and carried me on that hype until the end. The interactions with other classes, especially playing with your friends to enhance your spells, even with nerf to gas grenade into the flame wall, still was a nice interaction to have. I think more interactions like this should happen because it promotes playing with other people. Yeah, it makes the game easier, but I think the game overall will be more fun if you can play with other people. Maybe add more skills that can chain together and not make it so overtuned so people wouldn't complain about it later on down the road. An interaction that I've been enjoying lately is plasma blast into my friend's frozen wall to create an explosion. I enjoyed that there were many unique monsters going through each act. I felt like I had to learn and adapt to most of the monsters unless I was playing a ranged class. A lot of the times playing range, I could ignore the mechanics. Unless it was the shield people from Act 1, they blocked most of the ranged moves that forced me to get behind or stagger them for a kill. I also prefer the new gem system compared to the one in Path of Exile 1. It lets us be more creative with what we want to do without the need of using armor or weapon to equip skills. Though I will say the support gems should get more buffs, so we will be more likely to use other ones. I've seen many builds that share the same support gems. And now we're going to go to the bads. After going from normal Act 1 to 3, and the Harmony Moon started to fade away, I've noticed a lot more bads than I saw goods in Path of Exile 2. I will first start with the trial of Sakimis, first Ascendancy trial. I still think they should make it a little easier for melee, even with the recent changes for doing 30% less. I still had to use ranged spells to get rid of the mobs inside without putting myself at risk. Losing honor or losing a little bit of honor, something I didn't like going through that trial. If this was their intention, then so be it. But I do think it's quite annoying to switch builds, especially at later levels, passive refund changes. A lot of people can't play the game that long and try to respec. For me, to get a full respec, it takes about 4 to 5 map completions before I get at least half of my passive tree to respec. And that's a lot of time for people that play 2 to 3 hours a day. For me, it takes about 15 to 30 minutes on the map. Also, in Trial of Sekimis, me and my friends have experienced moments where we die for no reason, or it isn't shown on the map. I've also seen clips online where on-death effects were not shown on the person's screen and it causes them to die. This is very frustrating for the player, wasted time on maps, and could screw up someone's trial. And this is the only one of many things where players haven't seen effects on the screen causing the players to die. Touching up on players dying in maps. Dying in maps causes you to lose your whole map if you end up wiping somehow. Couple this with not being able to see what you died to could cause people to stop playing the game. Due to the absurdity of not being able to see what we died to, I think giving us 5 portals can work with to re-enter and try again, or even make it 3 portals for single player, 6 for 2 players, and so on. Post after post of people losing huge items from bosses and one mistake to lose it all doesn't feel good, especially when it takes luck to get it again. With the maps being with maps keeping us busy, I also think it's one of PoE's endgame weaknesses. Besides the pinnacle bosses, we are aiming for which feels impossible to find because it requires a ton of grind. Maps over and over can get pretty boring. To break this in between, the atlas should have options for bosses we haven't fought before, which brings me back to my earlier point having mechanically hard boss fights. I understand they wanted it to make it a pinnacle boss, but it takes a long time to get to. They have shown us in Act Normal 1 to 3, they have what it takes to create good and entertaining fights, and I think that's what players want. In Act 1 to 3, I kept dying, but I really wanted to try again. But when I die on maps, I really wanted to get off. I know there are a lot of bugs and small things that people bring up, and I wanted to talk about the big ideas that the game is offering us currently. And I hope they bring it for when the game finally releases. I look forward to this game's future, and I've heard they have a history of just making the game better as time goes on. I'm, I'm a small content creator, but I hope one person hears this out and they can pass it on to the next, or even share your ideas with other people on how they can improve the game or what you enjoyed, because I like to think that the developers are listening to us. Thank you for watching the video, Exiles. See you guys later.